Haha! Time zones nightmare. Gone. How many times have you scratched your head trying to figure out time zones? In the OmniChannelFunnels system, there's one flow you need to update. Actually, there is two flows, but if you don't use SMS, you don't need to use the second flow. So there is basically one flow and only one flow you need to edit. And this flow contains the time zones limit, where it defines your messaging window outside which you can't send a messenger because you want to respect the messaging etiquette, like usually anything before 8 a.m. for the user and anything after 8 p.m. for the user. You don't want to bother them so early or so late. So in this out of time zone flow, you have the possibility to set that window. But how do you identify that window? Because you know that when you run your live event or your webinar, you know what time it is for yourself. But what time is it for someone if you're in the UK, for example, or in the US? What's the time in France? What's the time in Germany? What's the time in South Africa? What's the time in South America? And how do you manage that? Well, I've got good news. What if you could get a tool that would tell you exactly and instantly what is your time window outside which you can or you cannot send a message? Well, I've got good news. Like I said, I created a very cool tool that instantly shows you what is that messaging window and how you can use that in your ManyChat flows or in any automation flows. So let's dive in and let me show you how it works. As I explained in the previous video, there's only two places you need to edit in this ManyChat template. I've marked them with this little hand and the pencil so you can easily identify them. So let's first have a look to this one, the core one. And in this video, we're looking specifically for this flow out of time zone. And basically what happens in this flow is that when someone has registered to your live event or to your webinar, we check in which time zone they are. And based on their time zone, and I will show you how you can use that, we send them a message that will tell them, hey, our live event will start at either a time after 8 p.m. or before 8 a.m. your time. I don't want to send you a reminder we go live in the middle of the night unless you ask me to. And then that's where we give them the choice to click on a button that says send me the reminder, whatever the time is, or let me sleep. And if obviously they say let me sleep, then we tag them and we tell them we will respect their choice. And further down the road, when we will send the broadcast, whether it's through SMS or Messenger, we will check if they have that let me sleep tag. In that case, we won't send them the message. So let's go back to this specific condition node here where I ask you to edit your time zone minimum and maximum values. So what does that mean? That means that if we detect in the spreadsheet tool I'm going to show you in a moment that at the time you will run your webinar, some people in the world will be in the time zone where the time of the webinar will be before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m. or whatever the minimum and maximum values are for you, then that's where we will input the time range that we want to check to be able to send that message here. The reason why we have to do that manually here is because ManyChat, as of yet, does not allow to use a bot field here. If they were, that would be perfect. We would not have to enter the flow and we could do that straight in a bot field. So hey, ManyChat, if you look at this, if you could add that as a bot field, that would be awesome. So let's go back to our Excel spreadsheet. So this is the Timezones messaging window calculator. And here you have a bunch of time zones from UTC -14 to UTC -1, and from UTC 0 to UTC +14. Then you have a map here of all the countries and their corresponding time zones here. And what do we got here? So everything in blue are cells you want to input information into. So we have the webinar time. That's when your webinar is happening in your own country. Then we have the time zone UTC. This is your city specific time zone in the UTC format, and I will come back to that in a moment. Then we have the messaging window in the 24-hour format. So the messaging window is at what time the earliest you want to send a message, whether it's a messenger message or an SMS, and what is the latest you will want to send a messenger message or an SMS. So the minimum is the earliest in the morning, and the max is the latest in the evening. So here I've taken the example 8 a.m. in the morning and 8 p.m. in the evening. If you're not quite sure about how to handle the 24-hour format, I've done a convenient tool here called AM/PM to 24-hour converter. So you click on that and it will show you the corresponding value between AM and the 24-hour format and between PM and the 24-hour format. So let's say 6 p.m. equals 18 in the 24-hour format, or 10 p.m. equals 22 in the 24-hour format. So let's go back to the main window. Those are the 4 information you will need to input in this spreadsheet. Now, how do you identify your time zone in case you don't know what is your time zone in the UTC format? Obviously, maybe you know your time zone. If you are in New York, you know that you are on Eastern time. But how does this convert into the UTC format, which is the universal standard used across the globe? And this is what we use to do the calculations. So here you have the method. Number 1, click on the map. Number 2, you will enter your city on the map. And then the map will give you your UTC format specifically. Once you have that UTC format, you come back and you enter that UTC number here. So the UTC number could be a negative number like -4 here, or a positive number like +8. But you don't need to enter the plus, just 8 is enough. But if it's a negative number, obviously you have to enter -4. Okay, so number 1, click on the map. We have here a search bar where we can enter the city. So let's enter a city, let's say Miami. And it shows a link here, Miami, here. And you simply click on that city. And then the website would give you a bunch of informations about Miami. The only one we are interested in at that stage is this: time zone, UTC GMT, -4. So that's what you need to bring back to the spreadsheet. So let's go back here and type in -4. So now let's say your event or webinar is at 6 p.m. in the evening. So 6 p.m., let's check, PM 6, the 24-hour format is 18. Let's go back. So we'll enter 18. And look at the red cells. As you can see now, the time zones have adjusted. So instead of having those two red, now we only have this one. So let's go back to 18. So how do we read this? So we have the UTC -1, UTC 0 up to UTC +9 that are in the red zone. That means they are either after 8 p.m. or they are before 8 a.m. when the event will take place. So we don't want to send message or SMS to those people unless they gave us specific authorization to do so. So now we'll go back to ManyChat. So now we have to set those information in the condition block. So we want to send that warning message to people that are in the time zone that is equal or greater than UTC -1. So here, the way it converts into ManyChat is that time zone greater, so greater or equal -1, and less or equal that UTC 9. So I will put 9 here. And then that's it. I just need to publish and I'm done. I've done my settings. That's all you have to do. Now let's see that sometimes it's not always that straightforward. So let's try different times. Let's say, for example, the event is at 3 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern time. So the time zone is -4 still, but it's 3 p.m. So 3 p.m. is 15. So I will enter. And now you can see that we have not a continuous set of red zones. We have from -14 to -12. And then we have from +2 to +12. So we have to adjust that in ManyChat. So let's do that now. So basically we will have two sets of conditions. So first of all, we have this one. So it should be if they are in a time zone range that is greater or equals that -14. So that I will add -14 here, and less than or equal to -12. But now I need to add another set of conditions. So check another condition. I'm creating another set of condition. Condition time zone. So greater or equal than +2. So 2. And this time less or equal than UTC +12. So time zone less or equal than +12. And make sure you keep those conditions as all of the following conditions. They have to be meeting those two criteria here and those two criteria here. So now we have our two sets of conditions, and we want now to connect those two conditions to the next steps. If they don't match those conditions, we don't need to send them that message because they are in a time zone that will allow them to receive the message. They will be either after 8 a.m. or before 8 p.m. Also, one thing I wanted to mention on this tool is that when you click on the map here, it will detect if the country you're in is applying or observing the daylight saving time or not, and the tool will adjust those calculations accordingly. And this is how you calculate your messaging window for your SMS or Messenger campaign.